This is a review of Survivor Season 46, Episode 11. We got a great show for you today. Richie is joining us once again. Richie, thank you for being back.
Thank you for having me once again. It's been a pleasure this entire season.
Today, as always, we are going to do stock up, stock down. Which survivors have gotten more powerful and which should be getting nervous? A question for Jeff based on the show. Could be about the episode, could be about big picture. And then, of course, who is going to be going home next week? Our predictions, all that and more. But a little housekeeping, of course. Neither of us picked the correct person going home because we are getting into spoilers here. So I mean, it's cheers to the both of us, I guess.
It's a cheers for that.
I do think I thought of a rule is that if you pick someone to, like, they're going home, like if I said next week Ben is going home, if Ben wins immunity, you have to take 2 shots.
Oh,
because it's the exact opposite. It's like, no, dude, you picked the person who's the safest.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it adds a little. That's only if you lose really, really bad.
Well, we might have to move recording day to Friday.
hey, it is Friday for some of us. Richie, what did you think? What did you make of episode 11 with the final several?
Definitely was a little bit of a letdown after that, the last 2 episodes, and I feel like I wasn't totally shocked though that it was a letdown. I mean, the last 2 were just incredible episodes. The entire episode, you were in it from the beginning to the end. Tribals were insane. People getting up out of their seats. Didn't have anything super crazy, I felt like, this time.
Yeah,
We do have a little bit more time on the beach, which is kind of cool. You get everybody looking for the idol. Very, very surprising that it took some people a long time to go and look. Like Maria and Venus are sitting on the beach talking,
Yeah,
and like they see Q leave to go look, and they just sit there and talk a little bit more.
yeah.
And I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, no, it was wild because we get back to camp and Kenzie, of course, is all shook up because it wasn't her pick. And then, we get to the morning, and that's when it all clicks. Because after Hunter, lost his idol, we were wondering, maybe there's an idol that's out there again, even if maybe they're not the same camp, maybe they are. Maybe his idol's out there. But then suddenly everyone kind of agrees, like, there's going to be an idol hunt. And the person that I would suspect that maybe Survivor fans would hope would not get it ends up getting it, which is Venus. Which... Like Dee was talking about on the podcast, like finding idols feels like an easy thing. I actually do feel like that is a thing that I could confidently say I'd be good at. But she was like, even when you're out there, everything just blends in with one another. And like, sure, maybe you see some twine and stuff, but you probably accidentally see not twine a bunch too while you're looking.
And I bet they play stuff too, like in there that makes it look like it's somewhere that there would be an idol, and then just nothing.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And So Venus finds it, then she quickly plays dumb, just stops looking, I guess, is because that would be probably pretty annoying. You find the idol, then it's like, oh shoot, I have to act like I haven't found it. So I got to keep looking as long as these people do.
Which she did an awful job of too.
Yeah, very, very awful.
I mean, very bad by Kenzie for not realizing that she was not looking at all on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we get some to, quote the current rap god, Kendrick Lamar. We get a little bit of poetic justice here because some insane foreshadowing happens. Venus gets her idol, talks about how excited she is to use it, and she says, I do not want to be, or I will not be, a person who goes home with an idol in their pocket.
Yeah.
And if you're watching and you're listening this far, spoiler alert, that is exactly what happens. And when I heard it in the moment, I did kind of feel like, like I heard it and I reacted out loud. I was like, she just said that. Like, if we follow sports, we know commentator curses. We know, yo, don't say that.
And then,
if there's a no hitter going, you keep that quiet.
Well, how about, bro? This has nothing to do with Survivor, but did you see yesterday the Yamamoto guy was going to make his first start, and the before the game starts, the announcer's like, and he's already on no hit alert.
Oh yeah.
First pitch of the game, guy goes deep.
Yeah, And
Same situation here.
we get that with Venus in a moment where it kind of does feel like, oh crap, Venus is a real player in this game. She's
Hmm.
got an idol. Like this
Yeah.
does change things. She utters those words, and then ultimately, like, because it's one thing to find an idol, but it's another thing to keep an idol and keep an idol low key and trust the right people with the information. She kind of
And then
clear,
another thing to play it successfully too.
yeah, and to play it successfully. And she was not able to react that well to having it. Of course, she stops looking, she stands
No.
around. Later in the episode, we see a weird tease with Charlie that ultimately maybe
Hmm.
sways the vote.
For
Um,
sure.
I feel like that's kind of what separates, you know, survivors from good to great is like being able
Hmm.
to not even like I don't think anyone, I guess probably the people on the jury know that Hunter had an idol, because he
Yeah.
fully kept that to himself, and that really was to his advantage. But Jeff really did commend the insane gameplay by everyone that to have so many blind sides and to have so many
Oh
people
yeah.
go home with idols in their pockets is what makes for a great Survivor season, and it's lived up to
Hmm.
it. But you're right, there was no kind of big like we come off the Liz moment, which will be a moment that like we'll all remember. Like there's always some in Survivor that are like, that time Tony, swore on his kid, or that long challenge that Christian did in uh, David versus Goliath. Like all that stuff. Like that Liz moment last week at the Applebee's will live on forever.
Oh, for sure.
But we still get a pretty interesting challenge here, because we finally get to the challenge, and this is also where some drama stirs up.
Hmm.
Um, I want to ask, how do you feel about
Ooh.
your D1 athlete? You posted a photo on your story of you taking the field at Sun Devil Stadium. Um, could you handle that challenge with the balance and the
Dude,
ducking and the
this is one I think I would be very good at. I have very good balance. I don't know why. Like I don't. I mean, I do practice it and like work on that probably once or twice a week. But like, I mean, all growing up, even I remember always having like I would get like a plate for some reason. I'd put a ball in it and I would just carry it around the house for no reason, just for like fun. And so I've always done that kind of stuff. And so I think these weird little challenges like this, I think I'd be really good at.
Yeah, it's funny because but like, because the end is a little bit like, dude, can you? It felt like just a really thick, long pool cue, and like
Hmm.
sliding that along the edges. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm in a regular routine of coffee, but there's no way in heck I could do that. And I do think it's significant that like it was the ladies who were getting real precise and real smooth with it.
Yeah.
Um,
I
like
mean,
I
that's a known
and
fact
it's
that like,
patience too. Like it looked like it was hard to even
yeah,
get it going. Insane.
women definitely have higher like fine motor skills than gross motor skills. They're definitely way better at that kind of stuff in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's why Caitlin Clark's a better shooter than you. You know what I mean? It's like it's just it is what it is. Yeah, and but anyways, it becomes close, and we get it again. A little more poetic justice for this trend of barely losing the immunity challenge.
Oh, bro,
Venus,
what was she thinking?
another
She
key.
had it there and she had it too
Yeah,
far over the hole. Like
yeah,
what was going through her
maybe
mind?
depth is a thing that we
It
couldn't
had to have been a
see,
depth
that we
perception
were
thing.
like, because maybe the table,
Hmm.
like we looked at it and it's like, oh, maybe that's like 4 feet away from them. Maybe it was like 8 feet
For
away from
sure.
them. It totally could have been. And if that is the case, it would be probably hard to see, where's that ring? Am I close? Do I have it? And then ultimately
It's funny because as she
Maria
was
sinks
getting
it.
up to it, I was like, imagine if like she got I was thinking, I was like, imagine if she got it right up there and she just like couldn't see how far she was into the thing and she just tipped it past the hole.
Yeah.
Oh, and then she does it.
Yeah, no. And it's yeah, dude, absolutely insane. I she drops it in, Maria at the end there.
Hmm.
And then we get to the point of the reward, which is why you don't want to win the reward challenge always.
Yeah,
Um,
I think especially too in these newer seasons, it's way harder with the picking because people take it more personally.
Yeah, and I actually do think
I don't think.
we get a moment here that we'll be able to point back to and be like, that was interesting, because that doesn't
Hmm.
usually happen. Is that Maria went with the rock paper scissors? I mean, one she did.
Yeah,
Well, actually, before that, even I thought was interesting. She was like, "All right, guys, plead your case. What do you think?" And then like
yeah.
a few of the first people were like, "Hey, no, I'm fine. Give it to who you want. I trust you." Which
Hmm.
is like, yeah, what do you do there? Do you beg? I mean, I guess it depends on how hungry you are. Some of those people had eaten Applebee's, not that long ago because we had a short season. So it was
Yeah.
literally the
They
day
said it was like
before.
the day before. Yeah.
Yeah. And then tomorrow there will be another challenge with a reward, and
Yeah.
it'll be like people still haven't gone to the bathroom. I don't know. Um, but yeah, so Maria takes Ben, who Ben had a really quiet episode too. Like we did not hear from
I
Ben
think
very
he's been
much.
quiet for a while. I feel
And
like since the merge, honestly, we
and
haven't heard a
dude,
whole lot from him.
we do say that, this is a short season, like these
Hmm.
days, it's not long enough. But Ben did look pretty sickly in terms of
Yeah.
needing food. So,
I mean, he immediately
um,
started crying. You knew he like
yeah,
needed that.
yeah. So that was big. And then ultimately, it's Liz and Q, and I love that Q is just still the guy going like, dude, hey, I'm hungry. I'm still ready to go, dude.
Yeah.
I have lost weight and I have lost energy. Um, yeah, Q, and then so she says play rock paper scissors. What do you think of
Hmm.
that method? Is that a good move? Because you're kind of basically going, hey, I'm going to let you guys decide, but it's this really petty chance, intimidation potentially game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rock paper scissors, and like,
Personally, I have no
like
problem
on
with it.
paper that feels like a could be a great move.
Yeah. I personally have no problem with it. I think that like her taking Q, I have no problem with that. I mean, Q picked her the day before, so I mean,
Totally, that makes
why not
sense.
pay back?
Yeah,
And personally, like if I was her, I wouldn't want to take Liz. Liz has been acting like a baby. She seems very entitled, thinks she is owed so much for doing absolutely nothing. I wouldn't want to take Liz. I don't think she has earned it or deserves it at this point. So,
yeah, and Maria did bring it back to like, if Venus was one that kind of brought up some stuff too.
mhm,
It's like, Venus, if you would have won this, you probably wouldn't have
yeah,
taken me, which is like, it's been this to me the stunner the last two episodes. I'm like,
mhm,
yeah, that's the ultimate truth of it. And yeah, I don't know. And
it's
it's
just I
it's
think too because in these it is in like the new era. I think people play with a little bit, not a little bit, definitely play with more emotion
yeah,
and feelings get hurt a lot more.
yeah,
Whereas I feel like yes, the picking of the rewards in the past seasons played a fact, but it never played a fact as much as I feel like it has this season.
yeah, yeah.
People are really taking offense to it. So
Yeah. And because, I mean, I like the fact that, like, we get back to camp and Venus kind of takes control, and she's like, hey, you guys all saw what Maria did, right? Like, she
for
she
sure, she
she
played
did
into
all
it.
that. Also, Maria's move was the last, like, Venus again
Hmm.
kind of like is doing things right, and you're like, oh gosh, this is going well, this is going well. And ultimately leads to that moment with her and Charlie, and she's convincing him, and I think she has him convinced, but then she throws this up her sleeve line,
Yeah,
and I think that throws him into paranoia enough.
Charlie's too smart.
Yeah.
I think he caught that right away. I think he's going to be the only one that knows too that she had the idol, and I think he's going to probably find one coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible. I think it's
Hmm.
but because, I mean, I don't know if they officially knew that she had it when she left, but
Yeah,
yeah. So we get to tribal. We get to Jeff again bringing snacks. This
yeah,
time a red vine, and he maybe is a little less generous. Makes them all split one.
yeah.
I mean, look,
Still weird. I feel like that he's like giving them just like almost free handouts.
well, dude, and I love quoting their podcast because they really do give great insights to the show. And what's funny is D was like, "Hey, Jeff, you know what? I actually want to call you out on this because I was watching that and it was funny, but I was like, Jeff, you keep saying that you have to earn everything in the new era.
Hmm.
Why are you like being all cutesy
Yeah.
randomly and like, being generous? And of course, he does have like the knife moments to defend Jeff, I guess, and the like not giving in on any
Hmm.
negotiations. But
Yeah.
I don't know. And what he said was, he's like, well, D, the answer is they entertained me. And I'm like, that's a funny answer.
That's fair. Yeah.
And he did say those red vines were from his personal stash. That on a normal basis, when he's home, he doesn't eat red vines, but he was randomly when he packs a bag or gets stuff shipped out there.
Hmm.
Yeah, he brings red vines, so brings it out. The tribal dude, I mean, I will say, I feel like we got a lot of good actors because I never feel like I ultimately know where the vote is going.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's Yeah.
I felt like it was going to be Venus, but I did think the way the votes were split was a little like I didn't think Kenzie was going to vote Venus, and I mean Ben voting Kenzie I thought was just kind of out of the blue.
I mean, I think that was in hopes that like Venus, if
If
she
she
plays her
actually
idol,
played it,
it'd be a
yeah,
tiebreaker between
for sure.
Venus, whoever Venus picks was, and Q
Hmm.
and Kenzie, and it probably would have been, maybe it would have been Kenzie, which would have been an even crazier
Yeah.
bounce.
Hmm.
Or it would have been Q because that kind of makes sense. But
Just an easy vote, yeah.
it was funny that Q was identified basically as Maria's like right hand man, and that was like that
Hmm.
was going to be the plan until it was Venus. Um,
Yeah.
ends up being pretty wild. So, do you have any questions for Jeff? We'll move to that.
I think my question for Jeff would be how much do you take into account like in the off season what prior like winners or players like give you? So like kind of like in this like with D talking to him about that, like how much does that play a factor of what he's going to do for the next season?
Yeah. Oh, totally. He was just saying to D because D brought a couple insights about like how you read people and how you win people over. And Jeff's
Hmm.
like, dude, I feel like there's gonna be a new generation of players who listen to this and feel more equipped because I mean they are unveiling the curtain more. And yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's certainly interesting. I was thinking
I
about.
think
Oh yeah, go ahead.
if they ever bring her back, she's going to have the biggest target on her back
Yeah.
solely off the fact that she's been so involved.
Yeah. True. True. 100%. And like she was
Hmm.
a very like memorable winner and like dominant
Played a
winner. And,
great
and
game
and you
from
did.
start to finish.
I
Yeah,
I will say I would guess more than 50% of winners. I always feel a little icky about or a little like I
for
don't.
sure.
They weren't the best player this season, but they won,
Hmm.
so I give them credit.
Yeah,
And she was one that was like, no, dude, she fooled
yeah.
everybody. She was in a great
Hmm.
alliance, great blindside, what an all timer. And we love that she supports the show too. That she's been involved in the network. We'd love to have her on. Um, yeah. So my question for Jeff is a little bit like more technical because I was watching this episode and I was reminded that like that moment when he says, all right, it is time to vote. Everyone gets up and votes, and it's this really great editing sequence where it fades in and out right as they start to write, right? And you always see the obvious votes of like, dude, we know who Q is voting for, we know who
Yeah.
Venus is voting for. We always see that. So my mom, we talk about our moms. They're half our audience. It's great. My mom, she skips through that part. If she has the remote in her hand,
Oh,
she will go 10, 10, 10. Like she'll do that
I
was,
like that.
because she's just like, no, let's get to it. She's like, I
Oh,
know we're gonna.
yeah.
She's like, I know we're gonna see it. But what I want to know is like, how long does it take from the moment that he says it is time to vote to when he's
Hmm.
actually reading? Because they have to take the urn
Oh, for sure.
and then they have to
And put the
check
votes in order.
in order.
Yeah.
They have to tell Jeff who it's going to be.
Hmm.
They have to like, yeah, double check like how that is not a quick thing. And I'm
For
sure
sure.
each time they all walk up and they write down and all that stuff. And if they like, because all those cards end up looking perfect, and I doubt those are first tries. So
Hmm.
that whole sequence, just how long does that take? What does it take? Because it is like 30 seconds, but I'm sure it's much longer than that. But it is a long
That amount
time.
of
When you sit there, I
that
want you to,
amount of time for the castaways has to be so like
yeah,
just nerve wracking. You're just sitting there with, especially if you know you're like
yeah,
on the chopping block. Oh,
yeah. And like, I'm sure they have producers that are, I'd like from being on reality sets, you have producers locked on people saying, do not talk,
hmm.
nobody talk. This is, we're holding right now, can't share
Oh,
information. The show is not happening. And yeah, because they have to keep those moments pretty sacred, and then you
hmm.
get amazing reactions. And we see Venus go home, which again, I think if we move into stock up, stock down, gets Maria's stock up, because I think this is another
Okay.
Maria move that is successful. Because like, what is the thought? Like to me, when Venus was out, was like, what? She wasn't even like a threat. If she's not a threat, then she's just like, target practice
Yeah.
for whoever's trying to win. Because a big conversation this season, and I think should be every season, is resume building. And like that's why
Hmm.
Kenzie was so upset at the beginning of the episode, is because she's like, dude, that was my move, but I didn't get to do it. And like that makes sense
Yeah.
because you want to be able to go to the jury and be like, look what I did. And Maria not only won immunity, of course she might have stirred things up, but ultimately, if we're going from a resume stance, I think Maria's stock is up. Obviously, it makes her a bigger target, but I don't know that this group is totally going for targets.
I had a tough time with that, with making her my stock up. I didn't pick her as my stock up solely off the fact I think she's the biggest target in the game. She has played the best game so far.
Totally.
And I think any chance these people get, they're going to try to get her out. And I think Charlie's going to be my stock up solely off the fact that
Yeah.
he has talked about trying to get her out. And I think had she not won, I think she would have gone home, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and Charlie probably has decent jury votes now too. I think Venus
I think so too.
is probably would respect. I don't know actually. It's tough to say. I think this jury is going to be pretty interesting, and tough to read. But yeah, so I go that for Maria. I do think Kenzie kind of feels like the next obvious target. I don't know why. I do think she's just so likable, and she's probably the next like Venus that's like the one that's like, oh, everyone would vote for her. I think there's just the stock was down there too, especially because she was the name of the person that they were going with of like, hey, if we go to a tiebreaker, let's put down Kenzie's name. It's like, that's not a good sign. Of course, there was a lot of Q talk, but Q's just, again, been a shield. And his stock might be up. It might seem like he'll get to the end, but Ben ultimately feels like the one that's going to be carried to the end is my guess.
Yeah. And for that reason, I have Ben as my stock down.
Yeah.
Just because
win
he
the game.
hasn't done. Yeah, he's done like absolutely nothing these past couple episodes.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get brought along for that exact reason. Somebody that they know won't get any votes. He'll be an easy win against. So
yeah,
he gets my stock down.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see for episode 12. But who goes home? We're at the final 6 now. Final 6.
I'm gonna go with Maria. I think it's gonna be Charlie's big move. I think this is gonna be what he does. As long as she doesn't win, I think she's gonna be the one that goes home.
Yeah, I do think again because her stock is up is makes her a huge target.
It's dangerous.
I don't think. Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid pick. I'm bummed I didn't fight to pick first, but I guess on that side I probably will go Kenzie. I think it'll end up bouncing that way. I don't think Charlie's maybe a big enough threat. They don't seem to be going after threats, right? They seem to be going after just kind of. It feels like.
See, I don't know. I disagree with that. I think they thought Tiffany was a threat. I think they thought Hunter was a threat. I think they thought Tevin was a threat.
I'm guess with this last Venus vote, like that, like there was something about that. Like they wanted to eliminate someone's vote, if they were to split on Maria, because it might have been Maria this last episode.
See, I think the thing with that though is that there really wasn't I feel like any solidified threat other than Maria right now.
Yeah.
Like I think maybe Charlie would be the second biggest threat in their eyes. I think Q honestly has a good case, personally.
Yeah, and
just depending again, like you said, how the jury's going to vote.
Yeah,
but
there's a path there, and I think he maybe has he has a great jury story, but I think he needs to win a couple challenges, and
if he can get to the end with like Liz and Ben, I think he'll win.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. It's all possible. All right, well that's it. We're gonna be back next week for episode 12. We are getting
probably
close.
Only have like 2 left.
It's probably 2 left. Yeah, after 6, 5. Sometimes they'll run it out. Do a 3-hour finale. It'll be insane. All right, Richie. Thanks so much for coming on. We'll see you next week.
Yes,
be
sir.
sure to like, comment, subscribe. Helps the channel grow. It's amazing. Yeah, we'll see you next week.